was born at an age where you had great expectations, and great expectations carry with them a certain amount of adventure. So it's an adventure. Zionism was an adventure. The creation of the state was an adventure. Making the desert bloom is an adventure. So if you ask me, it's in one word, it's an adventure in the best sense of the word.
Nothing can ever erase the marks this man made as he advanced step by step towards fulfillment of the Zionist vision. The son of Russian immigrants, he grew up on the dunes of Tel Aviv, the first modern Jewish city in a reborn Israel. But it was here in Haifa, at the foot of Mount Carmel, that he was first drawn to the sea with its ever-changing moods.
This is the peak of Mount Carmel. In biblical days, in the days of prophet Elijah, it was a mountain of fire. In my day and age, it was a mountain that we made war from it and also love on it.
Lova Eliav, soldier and author, dreamer of great dreams and man of action. He sought no personal glory, and yet at moments of great challenge in the annals of Zionism, his actions and courage changed the face of the nation.
This is the searchlight of Stella Maris, which is the star of the sea. It stands on the roof of a monastery which was taken over by the British Army at the beginning of the Second World War. And here, 3 rings of fate, even mysterious rings, occurred in my life cycle. At first, in 1941, I was a gunner, a Jewish volunteer in the British artillery, fighting against enemy ships and enemy planes here.
The second ring, with Mount Carmel looming in the distance, its British cannons spitting fire. Lova Eliav sails into port, ready to break through the British mandate's cordon around the Jewish homeland. As commander of an illegal immigrant ship, he has brought homeless refugees, survivors of the Holocaust, safely to their final haven and home. It was the longest journey of its kind, with passengers inhumanly crowded together, braving fierce storms which nearly sank the ship. Yet amidst crisis, fear, and suffering, there is also time for a very human story, for kindling a spark of hope for the future.
The ship that I commanded and the living condition on my ship were even worse than this similar ship had 1,000 Holocaust survivors on it. And out of the 1,000, about 900 were women. And among these 900 women, I met a young girl. And this young girl is now, for the last 40 years, my wife and the mother of our children.
But Lova has little time for romance. Here in Bat Galim, 50 meters from shore, 4 British destroyers lie in wait for him, and battle is unavoidable.
The flagship of the destroyers approached us very near, and the captain said, the British captain, said over a loudspeaker, "Who is the commander of this ship? Who is the captain of this ship?" And we had a boy, a very nice little boy of about 10, and I told him, "You go on deck, and stand alone on the deck." And I gave him my Honduran cap. And he put the cap, and I gave him my binoculars. And he stood alone on the deck. And I told the British officer over a loudspeaker, "This is our captain. He's an orphan. He's a survivor of the Holocaust. So are all the people aboard this boat. And for him and for his sake, we are going to land at this shore." And then we started battling with them. And we had a 2-hour battle. The destroyers started ramming us right and left and trying to board us with the naval commandos. We didn't have any chance. There were 2,000-3,000 British paratroopers all around here. That was their headquarters. They had wounded, we had a lot of wounded people. They overcame the ship, but we were already very near the shore and the rocks here. I didn't want the boat to be in the hands of its captors, the British Navy. I said, let's cut the boat with its human cargo right here on these rocks, which we did.
1 year later, Lova's life comes full circle again. He is now a senior officer in the Israeli Navy, the navy of the new sovereign state. His attraction to the sea and commitment to the nation again bring him face to face with personal danger and a mission affecting the fate of a beleaguered Jewish community. In 1956, Nasser expropriates the Suez Canal. Shipping vital to Israel's survival can no longer reach Eilat. Thus, Nasser hopes to isolate and strangle the young country. In response to Egypt's aggression, the Suez Campaign begins, and Lova is sent on a secret mission behind enemy lines to Egyptian Port Said. I do not know whether I shall return, he writes in his will to his wife, but remember that I am doing it for our family, for our country. Disguised as a French officer, Lova again sets sail to rescue the Jews of Port Said, held hostage by the Egyptians to avenge their defeat on the battlefield. Desperately, they had prayed for a Moses to lead them out of Egypt. He arrived in the form of Lova. The hundreds of Jews he rescued in this clandestine mission serve as living proof of Israel's steadfast commitment to the safety of Jews the world over.
Well, I think this kind of operation, combined sea, airborne operation, is the father or maybe the grandfather of Entebbe.
12 years later, another circle closes. Lova returns to the port of Haifa as Deputy Minister of Immigrant Absorption. He comes to welcome new Jewish immigrants from Russia, arriving after the Six-Day War. Even behind the Iron Curtain, Jews had yearned for Zion. Surmounting harsh restrictions, the Israeli embassy and its first secretary, Lova Eliav, maintained contact with Russia's Jews, who risked imprisonment and deportation for associating with emissaries of Zionism. The gates are open just enough to enable thousands of Jews to be welcomed in Israel by the man who in Russia had kept their hopes alive.
I have met these people from a unique Jewish tribe in the mountains of Caucasus. They were there 2,500 years, and a couple of years back they came to Israel, and I met the father there when I served in the Israeli embassy, and I met him here again when I was a teacher of adults, and I started teaching him Hebrew, and we became friends again.
Years of commitment and courage finally paid off. Lova Eliav. He always seems to be in more than one place at the same time. But in fact, he is always in the right place at the right time. Here in the immigrant town of Oרך, in its Hebrew Ulpan and community center, Lova puts into practice the most basic principle of immigrant absorption in Israel. It is not enough just to bring immigrants in. They must be given proper physical and cultural conditions to ensure proper integration into their new society. And again, in the northern town of Kiryat Shmona, with Katyushas bombarding from Lebanon, Lova volunteers to teach in the local school. And yet again, when Ethiopian Jews arrive in Israel, Lova is there to help.
Education on humanistic and Jewish values is also saving souls. The satisfaction is in the doing itself. You bring Jews from Cochin, India, to the desert. You come 30 years later, and they are the best flower growers in the country, and they meet you as their teacher and guide.
At the party held in his honor at Moshav Nevatim in the Negev, Lova and his friends recall the days when they arrived in Israel, penniless and bewildered. During their first year in the country, Lova was their director, driver, weapons instructor, nanny, and foreman.
See for yourself how beautiful the young girls and boys are, and I think it's verging on a miracle. But the miracle took
tremendous hardships to become what it is today. I'm a catalyst in this process, but the real chemical matters are the people themselves and the land. I was the catalyst.
It was the father of the State of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, who formulated the principles of immigration and settlement as national priorities. As a young man, Lova was one of those delegated by the country to help realize the dream of making the desert bloom.
What could we give them? Not maps. You can't eat maps. Planning, which meant to look way ahead into the future. We could give them good human relations, or in other words, give them our heart. And next, education, health, instruction. But first of all, to give them the best we could give from our human touch. And this we did with everything we could.
New immigrants from countries of oppression, mostly in the Islamic East, were sent to the region of Lachish in the Negev. They had brought nothing with them and were helpless on their own. That was 32 years ago. Since then, the desert has indeed bloomed. It is as if 1 million dunams of wilderness had never existed. There now rises a city surrounded by 40 prosperous settlements, whose produce is sold throughout the world. Its children have grown up to become doctors, senior army officers, and renowned experts in agricultural technology.
To my mind, a sample, an example of what can be done really in one generation if people want to do it.
The region of Lachish, settled by careful design, has become a model for regional planning and development, and not just in Israel. When Nicaragua and Iran suffer severe earthquakes, Israel lends a helping hand, and it is Lova who heads the reconstruction team, giving Central America and Asia the benefit of experience he has gained in Lachish. The talents of this practical yet highly sensitive man take Lova as far as Kurdistan. There in the mountains, Lova heads a medical mission aiding Kurdish rebels led by the Mullah Mustafa el-Barazani, fighting Iraqi oppression. Lova's achievements in fulfilling national goals of security, immigration, education, and settlement were recognized throughout Israel. When he was appointed General Secretary of the ruling Labour Party, he seemed on his way to the highest levels of national power. But he was becoming increasingly convinced that Israel's future demanded a new approach to resolving the Palestinian problem. When his ideas did not gain general support in his party, as a man of principle, Lova resigned, condemning himself to political exile at the height of his career. He chose instead to work as a hospital orderly.
After the Yom Kippur War and after a very bitter political struggle, I thought to myself, I'm sick and tired of these political battles. I want to help people directly and face life and death and do it with my own hands, helping people.
But the government of Israel called on Lova again. He used his established contacts with Palestinian leaders to help secure release of Israeli soldiers held by terrorist bands, a critical mission in which he is still involved today.
Not sterile pacifism. We have enemies. It's a fact of life. And we fight over territory. We have to sit with them. They are our bitterest enemies. With them, we have to sit and come to terms.
An isolated outpost in the desert, such is Lova, always first, always blazing new trails. Nitzana, a dream now being realized. The man whose first missions were in time of war has always dreamed of peace. Now he is breathing life into an educational project on the Egyptian border. Hundreds of kilometers from the city in the Negev, just by the border crossing, Lova lives in a modest apartment and works to set up a school in which all the ideals of the Zionist vision will come together. Immigration, education, settlement, and peace. One day there will be thousands of students and hundreds of teachers here, a special project of the Youth Aliyah Department of the Jewish Agency.
I'm struggling so that my grandchildren will not fight and will live in peace with all our neighbors around. And peace has a price, and the struggle for peace is as difficult as the struggle with a gun.
Hundreds of students have already come. The objective is to involve them in archaeological digs at Tel Nitzana, and thus bring the citizens of the future to this meeting place of past generations.
Here from the top of ancient Nitzana, we can see how important the place was. It was a crossroad between Africa and Asia, between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. Men of peace and men of war crisscrossed the area for thousands of years. Here Abraham and Sarah went from Canaan to Egypt. Why can't we, now with modern technology, build a new Nitzana and make the whole area flourish again?
Along the border once stained red by the blood of young men, Lova plans to plant a row of trees, their lush green proclaiming life beside the flags of Israel and Egypt.
Who would have believed 10 years ago that we'll stand here and we'll build a school for hundreds and maybe thousands of Israeli boys and girls? Why not believe that one day school children from this school, Israeli school children and Egyptian school children from El Arish, Ismailia, even Cairo, will come here, learn here, we'll go and learn what they have to teach, we'll learn and work together. Then, and only then, will it be real and true peace, real salam, real shalom.
Lova Eliav, 66 years young, still looking for new tasks. Enthusiasm and faith keep him going. In recognition of a lifetime of service to humanity, to his people, and to his country, Lova Eliav was awarded the Israel Prize, marking the 40th anniversary of the State of Israel. The mountain and the nation, the challenge to ascend, and the man to take up the challenge. The man on this solitary hill is not really alone. His cause is the cause of Israel, the cause of Jews around the world.